So, today's Nishringa Chaturdasi. So what I'll do is I'll read the verse in the Bhagavatam that we're up to, and then I'll speak something about that story. Okay? Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 18. Text, is it 17 or 18? Who knows, because they're both on this page. Okay, we'll do 17. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Gandharva Saraso Dukshan Patre Padma Maye Paya Vatsam Vishvabasum Kritva Garndavam Madhuso Bhagam. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka made Vishvasu into a calf, and they drew the milk into a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. We'll discuss that some other time. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Deyo Namo Namah.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So for the pleasure of Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar, we'll say something about their glories, and how pleasing it is to Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar that such a nice assembly of devotees are gathered to hear their glories. The whole principle of bhakti is to make yourself available for service to Sri Sri Murali Radhadhar, Sri Sri Radha Muralidhar. And bhakti means to please, so this is very, very pleasing, and I'm honored to be able to participate in that seva. The best definition I've heard of bhakti, I found in the Bhakti Sandarbha. It says that bhakti is best expressed in seva, which is loving responsiveness to the Lord through the faculties of the mind, body, and words. So, it's such a nice definition because sometimes we say, is bhakti an action? Sometimes we say, well, bhakti is a mood in the heart. Well, actually, bhakti is both. It's a mood in the heart that's expressed. Anukuyena Krishnanu Shilanam Bhakta Uttama. What is that topmost bhakti? Anukuyena Krishnanu Shilanam. When you have love, and your love, Krishna Anushilanam, your love follows the desires of Krishna. Anushilanam with so many activities, how you think, how you speak, how you act. That's what bhakti is. It's manifest in our words, our actions, etc. So what I thought we do today is, I found this maybe 10, 15 years ago. I went through the 7th canto, and I just chapter by chapter just picked out the rich instructions and philosophical points through this whole elaborate story. So I thought we can just go over a few of the points. Anybody remember a verse in that section of the 7th canto? What?
You're talking about Prahlad Maharaj?
Any of the verses that are, Yadu?
I remember one that he says, as the living entities, no, how to spell? That as grains of sand in the ocean are brought together and separated again by the force of the waves, living entities in this material world are brought together and separated again by the force of time.
Yeah, so very wonderful instructions. Actually, there's one verse in that section that I would call one of Prabhupada's 3 or 4 greatest ecstasies. And what I would say that is I went through the Bhagavatam, which are the purports that Prabhupada are longest, where he really just opened his heart. I know one is in the Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, where they describe what's called Abhiteya Tattva, the means. You should search for this. It means bhakti. Sarvatra, sarvatra, anywhere and everywhere. The universal applicability of devotional service. And Prabhupada Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, his mother, was hearing from Narada Muni. Padayatra, the walking festival around India. And actually, they were better devotees than me, because they were at Mangal Artik every day, and they walked on the whole Padayatra. I was late. So you don't even have to be in the human species. So Prabhupada, ecstasy, goes on and on. Any species, any caste, any gender, any, Prabhupada's ecstasy. Another one was Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, the 9 processes of devotional service. And Prabhupada goes on and on and on. This is his ecstasy. The 9 processes of devotional service. Who knows where that verse, what section that came in? What? No, this is in this story. I'm saying it in this story.
That's Prahlad telling his father, Hiranyakashipu, what he's supposed to do.
Right.
What he learned, the best thing he learned in school.
I'm not a Swami, explain. His father was a demon. And what does a demon mean? A demon means that your whole existence is putting yourself in the center and looking at the world as objects for your desires and moving them that way. Even if you have to kill someone, even if you have to exploit someone. And what is a devotee? A devotee is one who moves out of the center and makes sacrifice for the service of God and others, even if you have to give up your own life. So he asked him, right? Right, that's why, yeah. What is the best subject you've learned today in school? How bold. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. So I learned about chanting and hearing about Krishna. His father was furious. Anybody remember any of the other answers he gave?
My dear father, your only
What?
enemy is your only enemy is your own uncontrolled mind.
That I think he gave. Oh, he said that to his father.
Yeah.
His father, oh yeah, he was really upset. And give up friends and enemies, he was telling him, and told him, you're so entangled in material life, go to Vrindavan. His father was furious with him.
If you're in a deep, dark well where no one will hear you, you should leave this sense gratification and your uncontrolled senses and go to Vrindavan and worship Krishna.
Incredible.
And told him that your life is simply chewing that which has already been chewed.
Punapuna charvatam charvatana.
And the only hope of yours to get true devotion is you must take the dust of the feet of the devotees and abhishek, bathe your body.
So wonderful on these days. We get, wherever there is the devotee, there's God. Wherever there's God, there's the devotee. Wonderful. Right? Anybody remember any of the instructions he gave to his schoolmates? Kumara Acharya. What? Kumara Acharya Pragyo Dharman Bhagavatam Viha Dulabha Manasan Janma Tarapya Dhruvam Artada. He told them, Kumara Acharya Pragyo, even if you're younger than 5, Acharya Pragyo, if you're very intelligent, Bhagavatam, Kumara Acharya Pragyo, Dharman Bhagavatam, you worship God. Kumara Acharya gave. Now, does anyone remember how this story began? Dhanurdhara Swami.
It begins with Maharaj Yudhisthira asking Narada Muni how the Lord is equal to everyone.
Yes. Yeah. Yudhisthira is asking Narada, and why is he asking Narada? Because he sees that Shishupal No, he's asking him that. He's asking him that. And the chapter before that was the story of Vitrasura, where it appeared that Krishna favored the demigods. So, yeah, and then that question is asked, and now I'm trying to remember what happened. The Shishupal was so envious of Krishna. Since the very beginning of his life, he was so envious of Krishna that it's described in the Bhagavatam that even with broken language, he would be cursing Krishna. Can you imagine his samskara? His samskara is that before he was 4 years old, 5 years old, he would go like this. I hate Krishna. Krishna, but bad man. I hate Krishna. So, Yudhisthira to Narada at the Rajasuya about Shishupal. Because then Krishna kills him. And this question of impartiality. Is God impartial? God should be impartial, but sometimes he seems to favor. But God is samaham sarvabhuteshu name dvesha stanapriya. He's equal. He's equal to everyone, but as Prabhupada said, name dvesha, I don't like or hate, I don't act on those principles. The principle of hate and like is, this is moving against my desire, I hate it. This is moving towards my desire, I like it. Based on material, I know God doesn't hate or like we hate because something is interfering with us, and we like because something is pleasing us. God doesn't act on that principle. But as Prabhupada said in the purport, he doesn't have the defect of impersonality. God doesn't have the defect of impersonality. It's just natural to reciprocate in love. That's not partiality. That's not acting in a motivated way. That's acting in a spiritual way. We naturally reciprocate in love. God doesn't have the defect of impersonality. I'm giving a seminar, I explain this, Can God Be Blue? A study of Krishna. So I want to explain the reasonability of God's existence, the reasonability of God being a person, the reasonability of God being Krishna, and the reasonability of Krishna's Leela being the perfection of life. So I always found a really good argument that God's a person. And I was researching, and there's a person, he's a great Christian scholar, and he was on a panel, and I loved his answer. He was asked, is God a person? I love simple answers, so powerful. You know what his answer was? He said, God is not less than a person. Makes so much sense. Not less than a person. He's everything, including a person. And if you have that quality of personality, you are a person. One of my favorite things in this story also, okay, what's the main theme of the story? The main theme of the whole story. One of the main themes.
Protection?
God protects his devotees. It's one of the symptoms of Sharanagata. The symptoms of surrender is that faith. Or is that a contradiction?
It'll help you maintain whatever it takes to stay in devotion service.
including taking their life?
Sometimes by a martyr, allowing his life to be taken, he's inspiring others, which in devotional service, which is the
What about the poor guy that was killed?
He's not attached to whether he's killed or not, but whether he's doing Krishna's will. And if Krishna's will is that he shows that this is more valuable to me than life, then
Well,
people
actually
are inspired to
speaking-
take up devotional service to Krishna.
What it says in the Bhagavatam is, no, what it says, the definition is, you have firm faith that Krishna will do what's best. And sometimes what's best is Krishna relieves us of this material condition and gives us a better situation to serve. And you completely have that confidence. And Prahlad is the example of pure devotional service. And what's devotional service? Hoitaki apratiyata. You have no motive and it's unbroken. And you know what the definition of unbroken? If you want the topmost bhakti, it can never be broken. The symptom of something that's not broken is that there is nothing better than that. And there's no more pain than giving it up. So the example of Prahlad Maharaj is he had so much devotion, so much faith. Faith in what? In the unflinching trust in something sublime. He had so much faith in the sublimity of devotional service that when his father said, "You give it up, or I will throw you in a pit of snakes." I can imagine me right there. I don't want to die. I don't of being bit by 1,000 venomous serpents. How can you get a devotee to give up devotional service? Dhanurdhara Swami, because his father came all the way to Calcutta and said, "You give up devotional service, I will give you $1 million." And that's 45 years ago. That was like a fortune. And you know what he said? "Well, I'm satisfied here." And then, when his father left the room, Prabhupada quoted a verse from Srinivasacharya. Chakva turnam shesha mandalapati shrenim sadatu chavat bhutva dina ganesha kau karunaya kopina kantasrito. That he gave up all aristocracy as insignificant. It's insignificant when one has that bhakti. So, I'll just quickly just end here with some other themes. Just briefly, when they tell the original story of the different incarnations of Sishupal, Krishna's killing him, and how he was Jai and Vijay, and they tell the whole story. That when Hiranyakashipu's brother is killed, then Hiranyaksha, what he tries to do is the demoniac mentality is destroy Brahminical culture. And then Hiranyakashipu wants powers. And when he wants power, you perform austerity, because that's how the world is constructed. The world moves to try to bring you to Krishna. And one way the world moves to try to bring you to Krishna is that it will reward any type of stepping out of the center, sacrifice, austerity, charity. It will reward it. For that materialistic people in this world will be encouraged to give up something. Because even if they want something, if you're in that culture, it's understood. If you want to get it, you have to kind of be self-overcoming to a certain extent. So he had such a desire for power and for immortality, and he performed incredible austerities that was forcing the universe to move. The universe is conscious. The universe can relent on your karma to a certain extent. If you God and wanting to be independent of Him. So unless you give up that attitude, you can't conquer the material nature. Because the material nature is just following your desire not to be a devotee. So unless you give that up, the divine energy will follow you. And there's nothing you can do to free yourself from the illusion of non-existence, which is called death. You'll be put in that illusion that you're temporary as long as you want to stay separate from God. Daivi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dharatveya Mameviye Papadyante Mayam Eta. That energy is divine. And it's serving God by fulfilling your desires to be independent of God. And therefore, unless you become surrendered to God, that energy will not stop, because that energy is following your desire. So he wants to be immortal. And what does immortal mean? Immortal means to realize who you are. And you can't do that by material means. And you can't be immortal in this body. So that's also one of the themes. And anyway, we all know how the story ends in a very wonderful way. And the theme, as Adi was saying, one of the themes of the Bhagavatam, which we're studying now, is called Poshan. Poshanam is protection. And protection comes from one who surrenders to God. You're completely protected. And therefore, the very, very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm going to finish with this point because we have the japa period, but the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, we see a very interesting thing. Dhritarashtra Uvacha. Dhritarashtra is inquiring who will win this war. And when we get the vision of the Kurus and the Pandavas, the Kurus' armies are much more powerful than the Pandavas. So that first verse is material vision. The material vision is if you have more accoutrements of power, more ability to control the world through your wealth, through your reputation, through your position, through your beauty, through your education. Materialistic vision means, I will be successful, I will conquer. And what's the last verse of the Bhagavad Gita? The last verse of the Bhagavad Gita gives the spiritual vision. What's the spiritual vision? Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and whenever there is Arjuna, his devotee, the supreme archer, there's sure to be morality, victory, and opulence. Of that there is no doubt.